seeing peak performance, and just wait till we move to self-driving.
Wait.
What do you say?
Self what?
Not just self-driving, self-optimizing, self-protecting, self-healing. It's the real deal.
And everyone's cool with this?
Yeah?
Kimmy, are we all good?
I don't know. Are we? ¿Cuál significa eso? ¿Mente autónomo something?
There you are.
Please, no more.
You guys know we're talking about HPE's self-driving network, right? Good. Because it doesn't just assist, it runs itself. So you two can do everything else even faster. Ha.
Yeah, of course. Self-driving network. I wasn't worried.
Not for a second.
I wish we were self-healing.
I'm only 19. I still am.
Please welcome Sujai Hajela.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you for coming. And I know that it's been an easy couple of days for you here, but I'll make it even easier. I have a couple of questions before I get this thing started. Question number one, something amazing happened in soccer yesterday. Anyone knows what that was? Messi. Who said Messi? Good. It was a hat trick. First time ever. Something else, something amazing happened yesterday in Vegas, right here, somewhere around within like maybe a 1 kilometer radius. What was that? Yes. Wow, you guys have come really well prepared. It was all about the self-driving network. And what I just wanted to do is give you a quick preview of this journey of the self-driving network, and then my colleagues will go into deeper details, plus you'll hear something really amazing from customers. I have to talk about our philosophy. We have always been about up is not the same as good, which means a network being up does not mean that you're having a great experience on Teams. That philosophy of up is not the same as good. We decided to manifest that in our vision of what we call the self-driving network. It was as simple as that. It is a vision which brought our HPE and Juniper Mist teams together to execute on the ability to deliver on enriched end-user experiences. This vision has been recognized. I know you've seen this slide like 3 times now. Okay? This vision has been recognized by the market, by the industry, and this is clearly visible in our placement in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for wired and wireless. And if the Gartner team is in the room, hey, that's a free shout out for you guys. In any case, the most important part is let's go deeper into this journey of the self-driving network. If you remember, I spoke about our philosophy. It was based on end-user experience, which means we needed an architecture which measured the performance of every user, the experience of every user every minute. The only way that could be achieved was a microservices architecture. That was the start of our journey with what we called cloud native. Then came step 2 of the journey. The step 2 of the journey was fundamentally about what we call AI native and the introduction of Marvis, which happened in 2017. AI native era was defined fundamentally with what we call AI-driven support. What we started doing in that journey stage is if you had a problem and you called us saying you're experiencing this problem, the person who was answering that question or troubleshooting the network for you was Marvis. And if Marvis was able to answer the question, amazing. If Marvis was not able to answer the question, a data scientist would start digitizing the solution back into Marvis, which means Next time, when Marvis was called with the same problem, Marvis had the answer. But now think about what's happening. Something amazing is happening in the back end. Marvis continued to have this amazing memory bank of all these episodes which have been happening over the last 10 years. Then, so we got the ability to understand the user experience. We clearly got the ability to start measuring that experience and trying to answer as to what could be going wrong. And the third part, one of the most exciting, is this, what we call the next frontier, which is agentic, where not only am I able to troubleshoot the problem now, if possible and allowed by the laws of physics, I am actually fixing the problem itself. The network is self-driving itself. This is the self-driving network. So I've made this journey really simple: cloud native, AI native, and agentic. This journey, if you look at it, actually parallels the journey of a self-driving car. You've seen full self-driving. Just compare it, even if any of you has a Tesla, compare it to your experience 2 years back to today. It is a lot different. If you start tracing this journey, what happened with cars? You know, cars started, you had that oil lamp when your oil was finished. That was a bit reactive, couldn't do much about it. But after that, cars started getting sensors. You got cruise control, you got rear view camera, and then you got adaptive cruise control and so on and so forth. The same thing is happening on the network, where you're going from data to troubleshooting to insights to recommendations, and guess what? Finally, self-driving, possible by agentic. Now, to just make this a bit real, I'm going to take you through an experience behind the network, what was going on in a self-driving use case. So, we understood, as I told you, we are able to understand the end user experience. And we figured out the system automatically figures out that the user is experiencing a problem. Someone doesn't have to report to IT, the system understands. As soon as the system understands, the large experience model is what is saying something is going wrong. Then what happens? As soon as the large experience model figures out something is going wrong, and it's something to do with wireless, it huddles the agents together. These agents are launched. Because if it's a wireless problem, it could be roaming, it could be capacity, it could be coverage. It could even be a WAN if it's not a wireless problem. It could be even a wired port with a faulty cable and so on and so forth. So all these agents huddle together. And there, in this case, the wireless capacity SLE or the agent says, hey, I'm the one who's experiencing the problem. When it understands and experiences the problem, it goes back to its episodic memory, the memory bank I spoke to you about, and says, hey, Marvis, have you seen this problem before? Marvis says, hell yes, I've seen this problem before. This is how I solved it. And guess what? The RRM, the radio resource management agent, starts getting activated. And voila, the problem starts getting resolved. But we first verify and validate that the problem is getting resolved. All the agents are called back again and said, hey, are you feeling good? Are you feeling good? Yes, yes, yes. And bingo. The large experience model says the problem has been resolved. And what you get is a good experience without you touching a finger on that keyboard. Welcome to the self-driving network. Now, this was just a preview to get you all excited. And here, I wanted to clearly say, the benefits which you will experience from a self-driving network are very simple and clear. You will get the fastest deployment. There's a person in this room, I'm not going to name that person, but that person was involved with me when they were able to turn up 3,000 network devices in one night. We assure you of the fewest trouble tickets you will ever experience. Over 90% reduction in trouble tickets. And last but not the least, driving amazing business outcomes. These are some of the customers who can attest to that. But what I wanted to do is now invite, literally I sometimes call him a friend, a philosopher, a guide, who has been a guiding light for me as we usher the self-driving network journey. Let's please welcome Sajeev Nair from ServiceNow. Thank you, Sujay. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is having an amazing time in HP Discover. It's getting there, going to be done, and everybody can go back home to the families. So before I begin, and I have an ask, nothing fancy, nobody needs to stand up, nobody needs to do any dance moves, but raise your hands if you ever said or just thought it's probably the network. All right. Keep it up if you weren't actually sure. That's what I thought. For years, network was the most convenient word in enterprise IT. Something breaks, a call drops, an app times out, someone says it's probably the network. Our network team at ServiceNow spent a lot of time defending what they didn't do than building what the business needed. Now, engineers turned defense lawyers, and this was becoming an everyday thing for us, that we would be in the crossfires defending that it is not the networks, it is something else. That was the world that we lived before 2022. Today, I want to show you how we changed that using AI, automation, and a very deliberate partnership. Every complaint, every incident, every bad meeting, the network was always the first suspect. We couldn't build on wins because every time we started a conversation about transformation, it was reset because there was an incident prior to that, and we were defending ourselves. So the decision that we made was we need to stop defending. We need to start proving that it is not the network. And we decided that the data need to speak for us automatically, instantly, and undeniably, right? As the time progressed, we got on a journey, and as I said, before 2022, it was chaos. Every single day, the team was reeling under different pressure, different incident triaging, troubleshooting, and it was a nightmare. Right? As you see, it was siloed, reactive, and very perception-driven. Right? We got on this journey, which we said that we want to transform. This is not the world we can live in, and this is not the way we are going to sustain ourselves. So we said, okay, the journey begins, and the journey started right after, from the time 2022, and in 2023-24, we actually made a pretty decent shift towards that transformation journey and got onto this model which was connected, which was proactive, and it was essentially a full stack story that was forming for us at that time. As the time progressed, the AI was maturing, the partnership, the relationship that we had with the Mist Juniper team, that was transforming every single ideas into reality. Every single conversations were about the value that we want to create. So it was getting super easy by 2024 for us to look at a problem or hear about a problem and get to the bottom of it in less than 5 minutes, right? And it is not a story, it is a reality. Now, as we move forward, the vision doesn't stop here. We want to do greater things. We want to make sure that our engineers have quality time to do things that mattered for the business. So we said, okay, we need to get on and build on this and get to this journey called autonomous. What is autonomous? Autonomous is about humans doing less and machines doing a lot more. With that, I want to give you a little bit more deep dive into what the journey was like. Right? It was 2018 when we met the original Mist team, a tiny startup with a great promise and a lot of passion to solve things that was something that somebody should have solved long ago. So it was
It was start of the journey when we adopted the wireless solution. That was the only thing the Mist team had to offer at that point of time. And as the time progressed, we adopted many other things. But the whole idea was that we were not looking for a vendor. We were looking for a partner who thought the way we thought. And that's where the magic was. They weren't selling. They were solving. Every interaction was about creating value, about attempting things that has never been attempted before. Every passing year, every single engagement, that energy never changed. And that's very, very rare, and it mattered. And this is a question that I get asked. What do you think about Mist and Juniper in the new HPE world? I said, it actually doesn't matter, because it's the same people, the same passion, the same drive, and the same DNA that we are after. We are not after labels, logos, names. It can change any day. It's the people that build these things and the passionate people behind it that matters. So we also had this conviction around the fact that the network need not be complex at all. Why couldn't there be an enterprise network that is full stack provided by a single company? Why do I have to go and source and find things that makes this whole thing difficult? So simplicity done with intention is sort of the sophistication that we were heading towards, right? And as you see, from 2018, we picked up the wireless, then we went to the wired. 2023, we were WAN, and we thought, okay, that's the full stack, until we realized that there was a NAC solution that is also as awesome as everything else, so we adopted that in 2024. So truly, truly full stack, right? Now, this is a time when we are like, this is not about, picking up a logo, picking up a technology. We want to build something like a network that predicts, that correlates, that automates, that prevents, that self-heals. It's not a product. It's an operating model that we were thinking about. Right? So look at this slide. You see a lot of greens here, right? This is what autonomous actually means. Not a concept, a catalog of things that used to take people that now just happens, right? And this is a vision. You see the center part, which is all about network. This catalogs get updated every now and then because we find new things, new opportunities. And as we find them, our goal is to just go and automate that. And as we continued this journey, right, one of the things that we did powerful was that ServiceNow as a platform does a lot of things. The mission is pretty simple, right? Let the workflow, keep it efficient, and let that end-to-end visibility be available for the user, right? So we started connecting all these various layers into the ServiceNow platform and started implementing these different catalogs as part of that integration that we formed between the Mist platform and the ServiceNow platform. This is now two platforms coming together to simplify your work, right? So the network team is no longer in the room defending themselves. The system handles it, right? That's the whole idea. That's where we want to get to, right? So right now what engineers does is that they are spending less times on incident bridges. They are actually automating and improving. This list is just getting started list. This will be extremely well populated. And you see on the two other side, we have the client and the application. The journey for an awesome network experience is never done if you're not able to paint the picture from end to end. So our mission, in addition to building this awesome autonomous network, is also to be able to paint this picture that a user sitting on a Mac machine or a Windows machine, touching a resource in the cloud, how does that look end to end? Right? That's the ultimate vision that we want to build here. Now, transformation is meaningless if we are not able to back that with the data, right? So among the things that the team did, on the weekdays, defending, or on the weekends, they would spend hours and hours of time patching the network. Was there a choice? There was no choice. You have to patch the network. You have to close the vulnerabilities. So with that powerful integration that I touched upon between the Mist platform and the ServiceNow platform, today we are able to create a single change ticket, which happens anyway, whether you like it or not. Your manager, your auditors want to see things recorded. With a single change ticket, you are able to invoke an end-to-end automation that goes and patches the entire network. There are no engineer hands involved in that. It is all autonomous, right? We are improving that every single sprint, and it is going to get to a place where it is going to be extremely intelligent, where if you want to ever pick up time zone-based patching, you will be able to do that. It's all around the corner. But for us, this was a phenomenal win. Provisioning, small offices, not large offices. ServiceNow has about 40 offices globally, and it used to take weeks. We used to send people in to deploy network. Not anymore. It's just a single day activity, and everything gets done, right? Troubleshootings, I was just telling you, the hours that we used to spend is now down to minutes. 5 minutes, literally. My team of 7 engineers were the same 7 engineers when the company was 7,000 people company, and today we are a 35,000 people company, give or take. Same 7 engineers running the network beautifully, because it is possible because the magic of the Mist, the AI, the automation, and the ServiceNow platform that is all weaved in beautifully now. Now, what is this going to, where is this all leading further? As an enterprise, you need to have learnings and visions, beyond the typical things that everybody does, right? So we did transform the network, not just because we want to have a better network. We transformed it also to prove a model, right? You see the slide here, the world where IT operates, the way our network now operates intelligently, autonomously, ahead of problems. So network was not our end goal. It was the proof of concept. Every bold outcome on this slide is using the same operating model, which will essentially prove 3 things: data over opinions, AI over assumption, prevention over reaction, right? So we started with the network because it's the foundation. Now the rest of the autonomous IT gets to build on top of it, right? So today, nobody asks, is it the network? Because the network stopped needing a spokesperson. It got smarter, and the journey to fully autonomous, we are not done. But the data is already doing the talking. Thank you. Let me welcome the dynamic duo, Sudhir Mata and Bob Friday, onto the stage.
Thank you, Sajid. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Las Vegas. How are you? We're in Las Vegas, yes. I want to introduce you to Bob Friday. He's the Chief AI Officer for HPE Networking and the co-founder of Mist. He's going to tell about the technology behind self-driving, and then we'll come back and do some demos. Bob, over to you.
Thank you, Sudhir, and thank you, everyone here. Now, I've been using this same slide for the last 8 years because the technology milestones, the self-driving network, have not changed since we started the Marvis journey back in 2014. Now, the first step in that journey is data. And the reason we built an access point wasn't because we thought the industry needed another access point. It's because we wanted to make sure that we had the data to predict and optimize that wireless user client-to-cloud experience. And the latest innovation in the area of data is Marvis Minis. This is a digital twin that lives on the access point, switch, and router, and make sure that we have visibility all the way from that access point to that application in the cloud. Now, the next step in the journey to a self-driving network is really around these service-level experiences. The big paradigm shift that Sujay and I saw at Cisco was really from, it wasn't good enough just to maintain network elements and make sure they're up and green. You really had to manage that client-to-cloud user experience, and that started with keeping track of every user, every minute on the network. and that is what we call classifiers. The latest innovation around this is what we call the large experience model. This is a model that has been trained on millions of Zoom Teams features and actually brings back those network features and tells you what features is contributing to those bad user minutes. The next step is really around tying the customer support team to the hip of the data science team. This is to make sure that we got the right data to the cloud. And I would tell you, if a vendor is not using their own cloud IOPS and customer support, they have not started the journey. The fewer support tickets my team sees is the fewer tickets my customers are sending me. Now, Marvis has had a conversational interface ever since 2018. I was a big believer that we're watching the industry transfer from CLIs to dashboards. These natural language interfaces are going to be the new interface into networking, and Agentic AI is the latest innovation. Agentic AI is bringing a voice to Marvis and bringing reasoning to Marvis. And that brings us to Marvis Actions. The big innovation here is the trust list. We're now at that point of the journey where our customers are now trusting Marvis to actually fix things like missing VLANs. And when they trust Marvis, they add that action to the trust list. Now, when you look under the hood of Marvis, what you're going to find is a common agentic framework that works for both human troubleshooters and for self-driving agents. And agentic AI is really a new non-deterministic automation tool that is allowing us to really automate IT tasks that typically took humans to do. So that is what's under the hood, and that is the real magic bringing Marvis and self-driving to life. Now, this is the graph we talked about. Since 2018, I've had the support team using Marvis for every trouble ticket. And what you see here is that domain expertise. The blue and the red tells you how often Marvis actually helped them. As you can see, it's been a little bumpy the last years. That's because every time we figure something out in support, we moved it to the product. The tickets the support team are harder, but it's the fewer tickets our customers are sending us. The reason I haven't retired yet is because Agentic AI is what's going to let us get this up above 90% next. With that, Sudhir, come on back.
Thank you,
Go on the
Bob.
map.
Very good. Well done. So I'm going to quickly take you through. We're running a couple of minutes late, so I'm going to quickly take you through a couple of key features that I absolutely love. We call this Marvis Minis. What does Marvis Minis do? What it does is, even when there are no users on your network, we are constantly watching the network with no sensors, no agents, nothing to deploy. Every network element you have is a sensor is looking out for you. It's a digital twin. And so what this does is it basically is constantly looking at what applications matter for you, what users are doing on your network, and saying, okay, where is the problem? To everything Sajeev talked about is how do we get to what is the problem that is happening, but before users experience failure. Every single one of you wants to be in a place where you are proactive, where the user, before the user complains, you want to get to the answer. This is built into the system today, and I think you've seen Sajeev talk about it. You can see it in the expo. Again, in the interest of time, I'm going to move forward fast, but this is powerful. And if you're sitting there as an Aruba customer saying, hey, this is great, but that doesn't look like my dashboard, what is happening here? The answer is, as if you've been in enough of my presentations, a lot of this is going to cross-pollinate, lift and shift over to Aruba Central. We've not made any announcements around Marvis Minis, but directionally, I want you to know that is on our mind and bucket list. Now, next up is this large experience model. Every Teams call, every Zoom call, over 1 billion Teams and Zoom minutes. We take a Teams minute. Let's say all of my 100 friends here, we're on a Teams call. We actually look at, is this user having a good experience? What is the quality of the experience of that individual user on that individual Teams call? We've been able to model that. That's why we call this the large experience model, a pun on the large language model. Every single place we've put this large experience model, they've seen outcomes like the one on the right, is we've dramatically improved their experience on the network. The good news is, in 9 short months, in 11 short months, we've done what our competitor couldn't do in 10 years because they suck. Because here's what's happening, right? Because we actually brought and landed this on the dashboard. How do I go back? Help me go back. I clicked too soon. Anyway, thank you. Click in, please, if you could. So we've actually brought this large experience model and landed it on Aruba Central. And so what it's doing, without you connecting your Teams and Zoom data, it's actually saying, just looking at your ambient network parameters, I'm able to tell you, are you going to have a good Teams experience or a bad Teams experience? Again, Sujay talked about it, Sajeev talked about it. They're a development partner to us. Sajeev and Satish introduced us to the Zoom CEO. We got on a call, and they said, yeah, we could actually stop blaming each other, because every single Zoom call, it's always the network. I know you've seen it, and we all know it's not the network, but who's going to tell them? This is going to tell them. So anyway, again, a lot of agentic AI conversational assistant. This is landed both on Aruba Central and Juniper Mist. Again, the demos are out there. I want you to know this. I want you to go and see this. Please experience this. And lastly, if any of you are worried, oh my God, this network is going to get out of my hand. It's going to become, it's going to become self-aware and start doing it. I want you to know we do it with extreme care, learning on all of the data from the worldwide networks. So that's what the self-driving actions are. That's what Sunalini announced on stage as coming to the Aruba Central platform as well. A lot of it exists on Juniper Mist today. But with that, I'm actually going to ask my next presenter to come over, the one, the only, the legend, Axel. Come on up. He transformed the network at University of Maryland. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Very good.
Good afternoon. I'm here to talk to you about how we transformed our campus network from one that was filled with complexity to one that we had total control over, that was driven by a policy-driven approach. So the problem that we faced is our infrastructure was old. It was implemented around 2010, 2012, so it had some age on it. And the growth on the network was tremendous. We have to support over 122,000 different devices and a population of around 52,000 individuals. And this includes faculty, staff, and students. In addition, we needed to address a lot of the security issues that we had, and the scale of the network, it had grown so much that there was a lot of manual intervention that just was not sustainable anymore. So what did we do, or what was the scale of this? In terms of the refresh, we had to address issues over 250 buildings. We had to do about 600 or so network closets. We pulled 310 miles of cable. To give you a frame of reference, that's if you were to drive from here to San Diego, short 10 miles. Like, it is far. We deployed almost 17,000 access points and 2,100 switches across the entire campus. A lot of the buildings were only connected at either dual 1 gig or dual 10 gig, which back in 2010 was sufficient, but now in today's age, not good enough. The hardest part about it, though, was to coordinate a schedule around 14,000 different classes and work with 50 different IT groups across the campus. So how do we pull this whole thing off? First, we did a proof of concept. So we started off in our building, and then we really focused in on some of the student housing that was located just off of campus, so that there was no interference with the core campus. And that was super successful. Then COVID hit. But with COVID came COVID money. So I was able to snatch up a lot of money and refresh some more student housing, because the students were living in the dorm rooms, and they relied on wireless. And the 2 access points in the hallways was not sufficient enough. So that was good, and then finally we rolled out a full campus implementation, which was awesome. But the physical deployment of this was only a portion of it, because doing the hardware adjustments, that's easy. We really wanted to embrace a policy-driven network so that you had access to what you needed based on who you were and what devices you were coming from. And to achieve this, we built it on Aruba's switches and access points. We used ClearPass for the policy management. We deployed certificates to all of the University of Maryland-owned machines, and we used OnGuard as a way for all the faculty and staff to authenticate, so we knew who was on the devices. So this combination created just insight and stuff and abilities that we previously did not have. So it was awesome. So we shifted from VLAN management to, which was fine in the early 2000s, to more of an identity and policy-driven approach. We were able to just automate the access of everything, because before we would get a lot of calls with regards to people can't get access to X, Y, and Z. Now that was all taken care of. Rolled out full micro-segmentation across the entire network, and we had visibility now in a way that we never had before. So we blanketed the entire campus with UXI sensors. I think we had 700 or so in total. So each building has around 3 or so access UXI sensors, which has been invaluable. So whenever a change is made to the network now, my team quickly looks at the dashboards for the UXI sensors to see, okay, are those things still happy and smiling, or are they not? And then we know immediately if there is an issue. And we eliminated a lot of the manual switch ports configuration, which once again, when we were smaller, it was fine, but as the demand has gone up, it's unsustainable. So in terms of the measured impact, we were able to achieve a 90% reduction in the VLANs that we manage, which is huge. But even more impressive, we had a 67% reduction in the tickets. And this isn't a made-up number. We looked at the tickets that we were receiving before we did the migration, and then 2 years later after the migration was done, and it was noticeable. We even talked to our service desk, and they confirmed that the reduction in issues went down significantly, which is huge. Increased the bandwidth to a lot of the buildings, so a lot of the dual 1 gig buildings went to dual 25 gig, and then the dual 10 gig buildings went to dual 100 gig. And that was to accommodate all the increased traffic that we were anticipating with this rollout, in addition to making sure we had room to grow and breathing room. We're able to troubleshoot things a lot faster and lower the overall operational costs of running the network, which is crucial because in higher ed, especially today, every higher ed institution is faced with challenges, specifically budgetary challenges, and we're in situations where we might not be getting rid of staff, but we're not refilling positions when staff leaves as a cost-saving measure, but then we have to get more efficient with regards to how we manage the network. So by doing this, we got more efficient, and the team has been able to transition from firefighting to doing more strategic type of work. We have a lot of researchers on campus that want to do fun and interesting things that we couldn't get to before, but now we're able to accommodate them, which is awesome. So the path ahead, where are we going from here? So we are 50% done with our policy migration. So the physical stuff is done, 50% done with policy. We anticipate to be done by the end of this calendar year. We're taking more of a white glove approach to it because switching from traditional management to policy is different, and we don't want it to be a violent shift for our faculty and staff, so we work with them and make sure everything is going well before we move on to the next building. We really want to embrace automation and diagnostics across the network, and this is true today. So for example, on Monday, my staff pushed out a configuration change Monday night. They tested it in a lab, everything looked fine, they pushed it out, everything was cool, everyone went to sleep. Tuesday morning, they got up, people couldn't connect, and it was like random in terms of what was going on. So 4 o'clock in the morning this time, I'm on the phone, on calls with my team, took an hour to roll everything back, we got stability, and there was a nuanced difference between our lab and our production environment that manifests itself in terms of this issue. So what I really want is, as we progress, so we got the policy stuff done, but I want a network that can diagnose itself, that can heal itself, that can identify problems. So what I really want is a network that is self-driving, self-driving, self-driving.
Wait. You got to be careful with that self-driving word because it's like Beetlejuice.
Yes, yeah.
Like Sudhir, Sujay, or myself are going to pop out the moment you say it, so be careful. All right, so a couple questions before I release you from stage.
Yes.
Number one, I'd like to understand a little bit about how you're thinking about the problem of whether you build it or whether you buy it, you know, partner with an OEM in terms of some of this automation and self-driving.
So with the automation and self-driving, I want my teams to understand how it works. I want them to play around and build a few things. But at the end of the day, I do not want to be a zookeeper. I don't want all of these little things that they've built that we now have to manage and maintain. A lot of people are good at bringing things into existence, but not necessarily maintaining it over time. So relying on HPE to build all of that stuff into the infrastructure is really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, all right, so second question. When I engage with customers, what I find a lot is that while leaders are ready to kind of take this jump, sometimes the individual contributors' boots on the ground aren't ready. So how are you upskilling? How are you, leading them forward in this?
So to me, it's start small. So even with this whole transition, we were previously beholden to another vendor, and my staff did not want to leave them. And we did a small pilot for our student housing, and that's when their eyes opened up, because it just worked. Like, it was confusing, it just worked. We never had a situation where it was just fine. And then we kind of snowballed from there. So with regards to this, I would like to start small, where the blast radius, in case things go wrong, it's not that big, and get the team to adjust to adapt it, understand what's going on, and embrace it, because then they'll have those aha moments, and then we can do more and more and more.
That's right. Axel, thank you so much, guys. Why don't you give Axel a round of applause here? Really exciting stuff. All right, so for those that don't know me, my name is Miles Davis. I want to share with you today a little bit about the innovations that we've done in self-driving networks in Central. Now, the first thing that I want to highlight here is a little bit about an amplification of what Sunalini and Rami did on stage with Marvis Actions. With Marvis Actions, what we showed up on stage is something called the port stuck automation. I'm not going to drill into that, but rather what I'm going to highlight is another automation that we've put into Marvis Actions coming up soon. Ultimately, that's something called the switch offline Marvis Action that you'll see here in a second. That switch offline Marvis Action right there at the top is ultimately not just a boring old switches down, I've got an alert type of thing, but rather it correlates across multiple data elements, telling me not only that I have a switch down, but then all the other elements that have been affected by it. So instead of having 12 different alerts, 11 of them being AP alerts, one of them being a switch alert, maybe a combination of other alerts, I combine all those up, give you just the one that says the root cause is you've got to switch offline and all the issues that are behind it. Now, the next thing I want to share is some exciting use cases, some exciting cases that I've heard of customers successfully using Central to solve some problems that they have. So the first thing I want to share is a higher education customer that was having what you'd expect out of any higher ed, which is either tickets coming in of Wi-Fi sucks, or more likely posts on Instagram and X and everything else saying Wi-Fi sucks. What they were able to do with client connectivity metrics here is basically drill into the particular time range in which they were having the issue, be able to say, I only want to look at it over the last couple days in which I've been hearing these reports. I then want to apply these classification rules. In this case, what they did is they said, I want to focus on the .1x SSID. I don't want EduRoam. I don't want PSK. I'd like to focus on these buildings in particular here. And by the way, I should only really be focusing on the mobile clients. After they hit the apply button that you'll see here in a second, scrolling down, what it filtered out all these pre-connect and post-connect metrics to were only the ones they really cared about, showing us ultimately that their core problem was with association. Now, this is actually a simulated environment, ultimately something that reflects what they were doing. But what it told them, what they were able to drill into, was essentially that their problem was with a subset of the overall APs. It was at choke points of a bunch of students entering into a lecture hall. And what they didn't notice before was that their alerts and insights were actually bringing them right to that, telling them that they had associations going over the max number of associations that were configured, ultimately causing those clients to get kicked off. This not only amplified that for them, but also helped them define a few other issues. So they were able to go from Wi-Fi sucks tickets to being able to resolve that extremely quickly. Now, another exciting use case actually reflects almost precisely what we're doing out there in the innovation area of Discover, right? Customer in Europe running a large expo center had an event coming in. When you run these type of events, what you quickly learn is you're dealing with a lot of different variables. You've got contractors, you've got vendors coming in, you've got forklifts running over stuff, you've got all types of stuff going on. In this case, what ended up happening was they had a vendor plug in 2 switches into the same unmanaged switch, creating a loop. Luckily, Central was there for them, alerted them to the fact that they had that particular loop. Somebody was able to run out to the floor, unplug the port that was there. But not only did they do that, they said, hey, we better get ahead of some of these issues, start adjusting our configuration, look for other loop opportunities, and start to kill those as much as we can. So they used the Insights tool, were able to drill in, really understand precisely where they had some opportunities to apply best practice, put some guards on those ports, and ultimately eliminate the problem from happening. So what this meant for them is they had an extremely successful event, no hiccups at all, away they went. The last use case from a customer that I want to highlight to you is something exciting that we heard from a hospitality customer, right? This customer actually got brought in by the coverage hole alert and said, uh-oh, I better go figure out why I'm getting this coverage hole alert. But then they said to themselves, hey, I want to understand a little bit more about what's going on with the floor plan. So they used the floor plan tool. They were able to really precisely see the relationship between the coverage of the heat map, the health of the clients, the health of the devices associated with it. They're able to slice and dice that data down to understand, hey, I really don't care about the 2.4. That's going to be a mess all the time anyway. I maybe only want to look at 5. Then look at channel occupancy and even be able to do some channel overlap stuff. Now, ultimately, again, the system pulled them into it, told them where they had issues, but this really reinvigorated their confidence that this was the right choice to add some of these APs and adjust the RF plan, as well as help them design towards a better future in which they had the right density for their environment. Now, I want to take you through some very rapid fire things that we've added to the platform. So hopefully we have some central users in the audience here, and these are almost like pro tips, right? So if you go up to the search bar and you haven't used it recently, I highly encourage you to do it. We've really enhanced what it can do from a features capability perspective. We're able to do things like fire off, thank you, fire off things like partial MAC addresses, fire off things like partial IP addresses or subnets that you want to go search for, able to do things like BSSID search. So if you haven't used the search lately, I highly encourage you to do it. It's much better in terms of being able to do some of that immediate stuff that you need to get done. The other one that I want to highlight here is that for folks that don't know, one of the things that I often get input on is, hey, GreenLake is great for bringing together UXI, bringing together Edge Connect, bringing together all these things, but I'd love if I could just skip to Central right away. Well, guess what? Now in your GreenLake profile, you go ahead and drop down in your profile settings. I just want to go to Central, and immediately after your SSO, you're going to go directly into Central. The last thing that I want to, oh, I heard a woo. I love it. Yeah. Of all the things we've shown in innovation. All right. So the last thing that I want to highlight is Copilot. Now, last year we introduced Copilot, Agentic engine, really powerful reasoning engine, all types of horsepower behind it. But honestly, the feedback that I hear from a lot of customers is this is great for just getting some small tasks done. We introduced an audit agent in which essentially looks at the audit trail, understands the different users, the type of changes that are made. You can get a quick summary of those type of things. What you're looking at here is actually a troubleshooting agent, something that we brought over from Marvis conversational interface right into the world of Central. And now when you say things like troubleshoot XYZ client or troubleshoot a device, you get a whole plethora of information about what's going on there. Now, 10 minutes or whatever it's been is nowhere near enough to talk about all the innovations that we've been able to do in the world of Central. What you're seeing up on screen is just some of the things that we've done in the last couple of releases. Every month we introduce new stuff. Again, if you haven't looked lately, check things out. It's really exciting. Now, it is my distinguished honor to be able to introduce a gentleman by the name of Giuseppe to stage. Giuseppe ran the Milano Cortina Olympics, and with the power of HPE Mist, was able to deliver the most distributed high-scale network ever, delivering 0 user impact and ultimately 4 nines availability. Giuseppe, why don't you come on up here?
Hi, nice to meet you. Good afternoon. In these few minutes, I will tell you a story of a success story of Milano Cortina Olympics. The situation is quite easy. 5 years ago, nothing was in place for implementing the infrastructure that has to support all the Olympic Games, and we had the need to identify, starting from zero, how we can implement this kind of infrastructure. At the end of the day, we decided to start from the requirement that we had from our International Olympic commission. And so what we decided was that we want to have something that has to be built on the artificial intelligence native from the day one. So this means built on trust. We also had the need to be comforted to the fact that it has to be secured by design, and the securing has to come from the manufacturer without any kind of intermediate stage for when we receive the equipment for the extra configuration. And we had also to base our choice on the fact that the solution has to be proven performance. And from this point of view, HPE has a long tradition of proven performance on this kind of equipment on global scale. And last not least, we need the fact that the unified platform that we had to use has to be real-time insight. Starting from this, we started to identify where we have to implement the solution. And the solution is quite easy. We had to cover for the first time with an infrastructure that served the Olympic Games more than the 80% of the Italian territory, with 3 regions and more than 40 locations. We implemented this infrastructure using also the connectivity offered by our telco provider, national telco provider, with covering more than 22,000 square kilometers, and we had to serve in the competition the performance of over 3,000 athletes that were they fight for a medal for 300 more than 300 singular event. What we had to connect? We had to connect over than 1 million of devices at the end of the day, and we also had an exchange of several petabytes of data. How was possible to manage this kind of infrastructure? It was possible because we put in place the HPE Mist solution with 5,000 access points, 1,500 Ethernet switches, and nearby 100 universal routers. We also adopted on local basis 50 next generation firewall, and we also introduced 33 smart session routers apart for supporting the extra workload if was this the case. This infrastructure was based only upon only one statement. We want to implement a mission-critical infrastructure that has to be fully redundant and has to perform in every kind of situation. Every kind of situation means weather situation, operational situation, and also in case by which could have to change configuration for some external activities that gives us the obligation to do this. At this point, why we choose the HPE solution? We chose the HPE solution because we didn't want to have a solution that has to be retrofitted to the AI, but has to be native AI. And Mist gave this kind of guarantee. Mist has also the capability to become a native networking that automates the operation. And this is one of the things that we needed for implementing for the first time the distributed model on the Olympic Games, because what I didn't saw before, but now I underline, this is the first time that in an Olympic Games was so spread the distribution of the competition venues, and so spread the distribution of the village for the athletes and the operational center for supporting the event. Coming back to our reason why we chose the HPE networking, we chose it also because Mist guarantees to us an exceptional user experience. We had the possibility to verify in a shorter session discussing with the technician of HPE how was the level of a user experience, and was the possible to manage the parameter for modifying user experience into the case by which was needed to do this, and was really amazing the situation. And at the end of the day, this means also that the infrastructure is adapting in real time to the dynamic and to the evolution of the needs of the network by which is designed. At this point, the decision was taken, and starting in 3 years, we started to design the infrastructure, and we deployed for serving the Olympic Games that you followed probably on your screen at home, or someone of you, if has the possibility to live directly the experience in Italy. I think that was also an amazing spectacle, let's say. At the end of the day, why and what are the key figures that could represent the success story of the Milano Cortina Olympic Games? The success story of Milano Cortina Olympic Games are represented by these 3 figures. 0 incident affecting the end user experience, 0 deep networking reconfiguration, and 19.19 network availability. These are the parameters of an infrastructure fully redundant, fully mission critical, that served one of the 4th biggest event into the world, because the Winter Olympics is the 4th is the 4th event in terms of people that follow the event, has had for the opening ceremony over 3 billion people that followed the ceremony, and collected more than 600 million of people that followed for 20 days the performance of the athletes. So at the end of the day, this is a success story that we can give surely to be implemented by the technology of HPE. Thank you very much.
Giuseppe, thank you so much. I'm just going to say one thing. So
Yes.
First of all, thank you for hosting us at Milano Cortina. It was an incredible experience. My wife and I were there. The thing that I felt really nervous about is what they don't show on TV is the athletes going in the ice rink, and someone just slips out, and their entire career's worth of effort, unfortunately, they lose it in the very last sprint. It was nerve-wracking to watch that. I can't imagine how nerve-wracking it was for you to run the network that all of that relied on. So thank you so much for the partnership. Really appreciate it. Another round of applause for Giuseppe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. I'm going to close you out in exactly 1 minute. I have 4 slides for you, and 1 word on each of them. Self-driving, have we said it enough? Okay, there you go. Second, if you're not building agents, please start building agents. I don't care what your title is. If you don't do this, someone will do this job for you. The agents may take your job. And that is not fear-mongering. That's a fact. Then, as Sajeev said, as Axel said, and as Giuseppe said, we are not vendors to you. We're a partner to you. I want each of you here, please partner with us to not only advance your network, but to advance the industry with us. We stand tall on your shoulders as we move the industry forward towards self-driving. last but not least, if you're running an HPE network today, I want you to feel invincible. I don't wear this t-shirt for no reason. I want you to feel invincible. I hope you got one of these t-shirts. If you didn't get one, you have my phone number. Send me a text message. Send me an email. We'll send it to you. I want you to go out there, feel invincible with a self-driving network. Thank you so much for showing up.